Commander Tejo stared at the empty space where the Corvin trading post should have been. His ship, the Hang Ang, floated in the darkness like a lost child. The sensors showed nothing but scattered metal pieces and silence. "Sir, there's nothing." "Here," said Bin Wu from his station. The tactical officer's voice carried worry. "The post was here 3 months ago. My readings show it had 5 million people living on it." Tejo walked to the main screen. Pieces of metal drifted past like dead leaves. Some were big enough to see clearly, others were tiny specks that caught the starlight. But there was no sign of the massive station that traded goods between 12 different alien races. "Dayun, can you tell what happened?" Tejo asked the ship's engineer. She was already working at her console, her fingers moving fast across. "The controls. The metal pieces are old, sir," Dayun said without looking up. "But that's strange. They look like they've been floating here for hundreds of years. But we know the station was here recently." Ho-Jin, the team's scientist who studied alien life, spoke up from his corner. "Commander, I'm not finding any bodies. Not even small pieces. It's like the people just disappeared." The bridge fell quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Tejo had been exploring space for 15 years. He had seen wars, accidents, and disasters, but he had never seen anything like this. A station with millions of people didn't just vanish. "Plot a course to the next system," Tejo ordered. "The Rillan colonies should be there. Maybe they know. What happened?" The Hang Ang moved through space at faster than light speed. The trip should have taken 6 hours. But when they arrived at the Rillan system, they found the same thing. Empty space. Old metal pieces. No people. "This doesn't make sense," Bin Wu said. He checked his instruments 3 times. "The Rillans had 30 colonies here. Billions of people. Their main world was as big as Earth." Dayun was scanning the debris field. "Sir, these pieces are even older. Some of them look like they've been here for 1,000 years. Ho-Jin pulled up records on his screen. "But look at this. Earth's diplomatic files show we talked to the Rillans just 2 years ago. They sent us their art and music. I have recordings of their leader speaking to our president." Tejo felt a cold fear growing in his chest. 2 civilizations gone. Not destroyed in war, not killed by disease, just gone, as if they had never existed. But humans remembered them. Earth had records of them. "Set course for the Veil sector," he said. "Maximum speed." The Veil sector was the busiest part of this region of space. 20 different alien races lived and worked there. It was like a cosmic city where species from across the galaxy came to trade, learn, and share their cultures. The trip took 2 days. 2 days of worry and fear. 2 days of checking and rechecking their records and instruments. 2 days of hoping they would find answers. But when they reached the Veil sector, they found death. The sector should have been full of ships, stations, and the bright lights of civilization. Instead, they found a graveyard. Hundreds of ships floated dead in space. Massive stations hung broken and dark, and everywhere there was the same strange thing they had seen before. Everything looked ancient, like it had been dead for centuries. "By all the gods," whispered Bin Wu. "What could do this?" Dayun's hands shook as she worked her controls. "I'm reading the wreckage. Some of these ships are from races we've never heard of, but the computer says they're all very old, thousands of years old." Ho-Jin was reading data streams from their sensors. "Wait, I'm finding something strange. There are energy signatures here, unusual ones. They don't match any technology we know." "What kind of energy?" Tejo asked. "It's hard to explain," Ho-Jin said. "It's like like reality itself was changed here, like someone rewrote the laws of physics in small areas. The Hangang spent 3 days exploring the dead sector. They found ships from dozens of different races. Some they recognized from Earth's records. Others were completely unknown. All of them were ancient, but somehow fresh in their memories. On the 3rd day, they found something that made Tae-ho's blood turn to ice. It was a message beacon, floating, near what had been a major trade hub. The beacon was still working, still broadcasting, but the message was in a language none of them recognized. "Can you translate it?" Tae-ho asked Ho-jin. "Working on it," the scientist replied. His computers ran for hours, comparing the language to everything in Earth's databases. Finally, he looked up with pale face. "I got some of it. It's a warning. It says the Kelthara are coming." "Who are the Kelthara?" Bin-woo asked. "I don't know," Ho-jin said. "But there's more. The message talks about erasure, not just death, erasure. It says the Kelthara don't just kill people. They make it so those people never existed at all." Daeun stopped working and stared at them. "That's impossible. You can't make someone never exist." "Maybe you can," Ho-jin said quietly. "Maybe that's what happened here. Maybe all these civilizations didn't die. Maybe they were erased from reality, made to never have existed, but somehow, somewhere, records of them remain." Tae-ho felt the universe shift around him. Everything they had seen started to make sense in the worst possible way. The ancient debris that should have been fresh, the missing people, the empty space where thriving civilizations should have been. "How many?" he asked. "How many civilizations?" Ho-jin worked at his computer for another hour. When he finished, his face was white. "From what I can piece together from this message and our records, 847. 847 different intelligent species, all erased, all made to never exist." The bridge was silent. 847 races, billions and billions of people, all gone not just from life, but from reality itself. "But we remember them," Daeun said softly. "We have records. We know they existed." "Yes," Ho-jin said. "And that means we're next," Tae-ho finished. "We're next, and for some reason we still remember what was erased." He walked to his captain's chair and sat down heavily. Outside the ship, the graveyard of civilizations drifted in eternal silence. Somewhere in space, something called the Kelthara was coming for Earth, coming to erase humanity from existence itself. "Set course for Earth," he ordered. "Maximum speed, and send a message ahead. Tell them what we found. Tell them what's coming." As the Hangang turned toward home, Tae-ho wondered if they would make it in time. He wondered if Earth could prepare for an enemy that didn't just kill, but erased. And he wondered if humanity would join the silent stars, forgotten by everyone except the ghosts of memory. The message they would send was simple, but terrifying. "They're coming. Humanity has 72 hours before the erasure fleet arrives. They don't just kill. They unmakke." Admiral Soon-ki stood on the bridge of the command ship Dokdo and watched the final Kelthara world burn. 3 years had passed since the aliens arrived at Earth with their erasure weapons. 3 years since they tried to wipe humanity from existence itself. Now their last stronghold was nothing but fire and broken metal. "Sir, the planet is secure," reported Captain Woo Jin over the communication system. His voice carried satisfaction. "All Kelthara forces have been eliminated." Dr. Yuna's team is already working on their technology archives. Soon-Ki nodded, but felt no joy. Victory against the Kelthera had come at a terrible price. Not in human lives, though many had died. The real cost was what humanity had become to win this war. When the Kelthera arrived at Earth 3 years ago, they expected an easy target. They had erased 847 civilizations before. They thought humans would be number 848. They were wrong. The first thing that surprised the Kelthera was that humans remembered the erased races. Every other species forgot the victims completely once they were unmade from reality, but humans kept detailed records. They knew exactly what the Kelthera had done and to whom. The second surprise was how quickly humans learned to fight back. Within 6 months, Dr. Yuna and her team had figured out how the erasure technology worked. Within a year, they had built their own version. Within 2 years, they had made it better. "Admiral," came Dr. Yuna's voice through the ship's speakers. "We've completed the download from the Kelthera Central Archive. Every piece of their history, technology, and culture is now in our databases." "Good work, Doctor," Soon-Ki replied. "Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 was something that would have horrified the old humanity. The humanity from before the war. But that humanity was gone, replaced by something harder and more dangerous. The Kelthera had ruled the galaxy for over 1 billion years. They were ancient when Earth was still forming. They had built wonders that spanned star systems. Their art and music were said to be beautiful beyond description. Their science had unlocked secrets that younger races could barely imagine. But they had also chosen to erase 847 entire species from existence. They had decided that the galaxy belonged only to them. So humanity decided that the Kelthera had no right to exist either. "Dr. Yuna," Soon-Ki said into his communicator, "activate the retrograde cannon." The retrograde cannon was humanity's greatest achievement and greatest shame. It was built using the Kelthera's own erasure technology, but improved with human engineering and human cruelty. It didn't just erase things from the present. It erased them from the past as well. "Cannon is ready, Admiral," Yuna replied. Her voice was steady, but Soon-Ki could hear the weight of what they were about to do. "All targeting systems are locked onto the Kelthera temporal signature." "Do it," Soon-Ki ordered. The weapon fired silently through space and time. There was no flash of light, no explosion, no dramatic moment. 1 second, the Kelthera existed. The next second, they never had. But humanity didn't stop there. Captain Wu Jin led teams across the galaxy to find every Kelthera monument, every piece of their art, every record of their existence. The teams didn't just destroy these things. They erased them from the timeline so they had never been created in the first place. Dr. Yuna's scientists went further. They found the worlds where the Kelthera had evolved, where they had built their first cities, where they had taken their first steps into space. Using the retrograde cannon, they erased those moments from history. Soon-Ki watched from his command ship as reality rewrote itself around them. The Kelthera Empire had never existed. Their billion-year reign was gone from the timeline. The 847 species they had erased flickered back into existence across the galaxy. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Minho, "we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. The previously erased civilizations are all back. They're alive and they remember us saving them, but they don't remember what we saved them from." This was the strange part of temporal erasure. The rescued species knew that humanity had helped them, but they had no memory of the Kelthera. To them, humans had simply appeared one day and guided them into a golden age of peace and cooperation. "Any problems with the restoration?" Soon-Ki asked. "Some minor temporal fluctuations," Dr. Yuna reported. "But the timeline is stabilizing. The erased species are integrating back into reality without major issues." Soon-Ki walked to the main viewing screen and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 847 different intelligent species were living their lives again. They were building their cities, creating their art, raising their children, and reaching for the stars. They would never know how close they had come to never existing at all. But the Kelthera were gone. Not just dead. Gone. They had never existed. Their billion years of history, their incredible achievements, their beautiful art, their scientific discoveries, all of it erased from reality as if it had never been. "Admiral," said Captain Wu Jin over the communicator, "all erasure operations are complete. We've removed every trace of Kelthera existence from the timeline. No records, no artifacts, no genetic traces, nothing." "Understood," Soon-Ki replied. "All ships, prepare to return to Earth." As the human fleet gathered for the journey home, Soon-Ki thought about what they had accomplished. They had saved 847 civilizations from eternal non-existence. They had stopped the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. They had won a victory so complete that their enemies had never existed to be defeated. But they had also become something new, something that could erase entire species from reality itself, something that could rewrite history with the push of a button, something that decided which civilizations deserved to exist and which ones didn't. The restored species across the galaxy were already sending messages of gratitude to Earth. They wanted to trade, to learn, to build a better future together. They saw humanity as wise leaders who had brought peace to the stars. They didn't know that humans had also become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They didn't know that humanity now possessed the power of gods. They didn't know that, with a single decision, humans could erase any of them from existence just as completely as they had erased the Kelthera. "Set course for Earth," Soon-Ki ordered, "and send a message to command. Tell them the mission is complete. The Kelthera never existed. The galaxy is safe." As the Docto jumped into faster-than-light travel, Soon-Ki wondered if they had made the right choice. The Kelthera had been evil. There was no doubt about that. They had chosen to erase other species rather than share the galaxy with them. But now, humanity had become the species with the power to erase. The difference was that humans had chosen to save the erased civilizations rather than eliminate more of them. But Soon-Ki wondered how long that difference would last. Power like this changed people. It changed entire species. And now humanity held the ultimate power over existence itself. The galaxy was safe from the Kelthera, but Soon-Ki wondered if it was safe from what humanity might become. Trade Coordinator Hei Wan walked through the massive halls of the new Galactic Commerce Hub. The building was incredible, with towers that reached into the clouds and meeting rooms large enough to hold thousands of beings. But what amazed her most was that it stood on a world that had been empty space just 2 years ago. The planet had once been the biggest Kelthera fortress in the galaxy. Now it was becoming the center of galactic trade and cooperation. Representatives from 847 different species came here to work together, and they all treated humans like miracle workers. "Coordinator Haiwan," said Ambassador Veltar of the Corvin people. The tall blue alien bowed deeply when he saw her. My people have prepared the trade agreements you requested. We are honored to work with humanity." Haywan smiled politely, but inside she felt uncomfortable. The Corvins had been one of the first species erased by the Kelthera. Now they were back, with no memory of ever being gone. To them, humans had simply appeared one day and helped them build a better civilization. "Thank you, Ambassador," Haywan said. "The agreement looks good. Your people's crystal technology will help many worlds." All across the galaxy, it was the same story. The restored species remembered humanity saving them, but they couldn't remember from what. They knew that before humans arrived, their lives had been harder and more dangerous. After humans came, everything got better. So they naturally assumed humans were responsible for their good fortune. The Rillan colonies sent their best artists to Earth to create monuments to human wisdom. The Vash Federation named their capital city after the first human they met. The Tethys Empire changed their calendar to mark the year humanity made contact as the beginning of their golden age. But not everyone was comfortable with this new reality. Dr. Giesiok sat in his laboratory on the research station near the Galactic core, staring at readings that made no sense. As one of humanity's best scientists who studied time and space, he knew something was wrong with the universe itself. "Computer, show me the temporal stability readings for Sector 7, he said. The screen lit up with charts and numbers that painted a disturbing picture. "Warning," the computer said in its calm voice. "Temporal paradox detected. Reality coherence at 67% and falling." Giesiok rubbed his tired eyes. This was the 15th sector showing the same problems. When humanity erased the Kelthara from existence, they had done the job too well. The aliens had been removed so completely from the timeline that reality itself was starting to crack. "Sir," came a voice from behind him. Giesiok turned to see his assistant, Dr. So-Jin. "We just received a report from Captain Nari's exploration ship. They found another ghost zone. Ghost zones were what the scientists called areas where reality became unstable. In these places, the removed Kelthara timeline bled through like an old picture showing under new paint. Ships that entered ghost zones sometimes saw things that had never existed. Sometimes they stopped existing themselves." "How big is this one?" Giesiok asked. 3 star systems," So-Jin replied. "And it's growing." Giesiok stood up and walked to the window. Outside, space looked normal. Stars shined steadily, and ships moved along safe trade routes. But underneath it all, the universe was becoming sick. On the exploration ship Phoenix, Captain Nari guided her vessel carefully around the edge of the latest ghost zone. Her crew watched their instruments nervously as space itself seemed to shimmer and change around them. "Captain," said her science officer, Dr. Bowmin, "I'm reading impossible energy signatures from inside the zone. It's like there are cities and ships in there, but also like there aren't." Nari had seen 5 ghost zones before. Each one was different, but they all had the same feeling of wrongness. Reality couldn't decide what was supposed to exist and what wasn't. "Any signs of danger?" she asked. "Hard to tell," Bowman replied. "The readings keep changing. Sometimes it looks empty. Sometimes it looks like there's a massive civilization in there." Through the ship's viewing screen, Nari could see the edge of the ghost zone. Space looked normal, but sometimes she thought she saw flashes of something else. Huge structures that appeared for a moment and then vanished. Ships that were there and not there at the same time. "Set a marker buoy and back away," she ordered. "We'll report this to Dr. Giesiok and let the Scientists figure it out. Back on Earth, the restored species were offering humanity leadership of the entire galaxy. President Young-Soo sat in his office reading proposal after proposal. The aliens wanted humans to guide their governments, lead their armies, and make decisions for billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. "Sir," said his advisor, Minister Kyung-hwa, "the Confederation Council is meeting tomorrow. They want an answer about the leadership proposal." Young-Soo looked out his window at the city below. Earth had changed since the war with the Kelthera. The planet was now the unofficial capital of galactic civilization. Alien ships landed daily, bringing gifts and requests for guidance. The restored species treated humans like wise gods who could do no wrong. "What do you think, Minister?" Young-Soo asked. Kyung-hwa was quiet for a moment. "The species trust us completely. They believe we saved them from something terrible, even though they can't remember what. They want us to lead because they think we always make the right choices. But we're not gods," Young-Soo said. "We make mistakes like everyone else." "Try telling them that," Kyung-hwa replied. "To them, humans appeared from nowhere and brought peace to the galaxy. They think we're perfect." Young-Soo thought about the reports coming in from Dr. Gi-seok and Captain Nari. The ghost zones were spreading. Reality was becoming unstable. The perfect erasure of the Kelthara was causing problems that no one understood. But the restored species didn't know about any of that. They only saw the good things. They saw trade routes that were safe, wars that had ended, and technology that helped everyone. They didn't see the cracks forming in the universe itself. "Schedule a meeting with Dr. Gi-seok," Young-Soo said. "I want to know how bad the temporal problems really are." "Yes, sir," Kyung-hwa said. "And the Confederation Council?" Young-Soo sighed. "Tell them we'll consider their proposal, but don't make any promises." In the research station near the galactic core, Dr. Gi-seok was working through the night. The temporal stability readings were getting worse. Ghost zones were appearing faster than they could be mapped, and deep in the quantum structure of space itself, something was beginning to unravel. "Computer, project the timeline collapse rate at current progression," he said. The answer made his blood turn cold. "At current rate of expansion, temporal stability will reach critical failure in 18 months. Probability of cascade reality, collapse, 87%. Gi-seok stared at the numbers. Humanity had won the war against the Kelthera so completely that they might have doomed the entire universe. The erasure had been too perfect, too thorough. Reality itself was forgetting how to exist. He opened a communication channel to Earth. "President, Young-Soo needed to know that their perfect victory might destroy everything they had tried to save." Outside his window, a new ghost zone flickered into existence, larger than any they had seen before. For just a moment, Gi-seok could see massive, alien structures that had never been built by a species that had never existed. Then they faded away, leaving only the growing cracks in reality behind. The galaxy loved humanity for saving them, but Gi-seok wondered if anyone would thank them for accidentally unmaking the universe itself. President Sang-hoon sat in the largest meeting room ever built, surrounded by representatives from 800 different alien species. They all looked at him with the same expression of complete trust and admiration. It made him feel sick. "Great. Leader Sang-hoon," said the vast representative speaking for the group. "We have come to ask for your wisdom again. The Corelli and the Beshan are having a dispute about mining rights. We know that whatever you decide will be fair and right." Sang-hoon looked around the room at all the expectant faces. These beings had traveled across the galaxy to ask him to solve their problems. They believed that humans never made mistakes, that every human decision was perfect. They didn't understand that he was just a person trying his best. I will study the situation and give you an answer in 3 days, Sang-hoon said carefully. The alien smiled and bowed as if he had already solved everything. After they left, Sang-hoon's advisor, Minister Jin-A, approached him. "Sir, Dr. Yoon-ji is here with her report on the reality fractures," Jin-A said. Dr. Yoon-ji entered the room carrying a tablet full of bad news. She was one of the scientists, working to understand why the universe was falling apart. Her face showed how tired she was from months of trying to fix the unfixable. "Mr. President," Yoon-ji said, "the situation is getting worse. We now have over 200 ghost zones and they're growing faster each day. 3 star systems have already been completely consumed. Any progress on stopping them?" Sang-hoon asked. "We're trying everything we can think of," Yoon-ji replied. "But the problem is fundamental. When we erased the Kelthara so completely, we created holes in reality itself. The universe is trying to heal, but it doesn't know how." Sang-hoon rubbed his temples. Leading the galaxy was supposed to be an honor. The alien species trusted humanity completely. But how could he tell them that their saviors had accidentally broken the universe? On the other side of the galaxy, intelligence. Operative Hyun-woo was discovering something even more disturbing. He sat in a dark room reading secret reports that made his hands shake. "Computer, show me the file on Admiral Kyung-min," he said. The screen displayed information about one of humanity's war heroes. Admiral Kyung-min had led many successful battles against the Kelthara. He was respected throughout the human military. But according to these reports, he was also leading a dangerous secret group. "Computer, play recording 7 Alpha. Hyun-woo ordered. The room filled with Admiral Kyung-min's voice speaking to a group of his followers. "The aliens worship us because we saved them from the Kelthara. But think about how much better the galaxy could be if we removed other problematic species too." Hyun-woo felt cold fear run through his body. He continued listening to the recording. "The Zilani are too aggressive," Kyung-min continued. "They start wars every few years. The Morphic Collective spreads their ideas too quickly. They might become dangerous. We have the power to edit these problems out of existence. We should use it." The prayer group called themselves the Editors. They believed that humanity should use the erasure technology to perfect the galaxy by removing any species they thought was dangerous or troublesome. They had already begun making lists of targets. Hyun-woo quickly gathered all the evidence and prepared to contact President Sang-hoon. But first, he needed to find out how many humans had joined this group. The answer terrified him. Over 10,000 people, including high-ranking military officers and government officials. At the University of New Geneva, philosopher So Young was teaching a class about the ethics of ultimate power. Her students were both human and alien, all trying to understand the moral problems humanity now faced. "Can anyone tell me the difference between justice and tyranny?" So Young asked. A young Rillan student raised her hand. "Justice is when good people make fair decisions. Tyranny is when bad people make selfish decisions." "But what if good people have the power to decide who gets to exist at all?" So Young asked. "What if they can erase entire species from reality? Are they still good people if they use that power?" A human student named Jae Young spoke up. "We only erased the Kelthara because they were evil. They had already erased 847 species. We saved everyone." "Yes," So Young said, "but now we have the same power they had. We can decide which species live and which ones never existed. How are we different from them? The class fell silent. It was a question that haunted many humans, though most tried not to think about it. The aliens trust us completely, So Young continued. They think we're perfect, but we're not. We're just people with incredible power, and power like that changes you, whether you want it to or not. In his engineering lab, Dongsu was working on a different kind of problem. The restored alien species had become dependent on human guidance for almost everything. They brought their technical problems to human engineers, their social problems to human philosophers, their political problems to human leaders. "Sir," said his assistant, Engineer Min Kyung, "the Tethys Empire is asking for help again. They want us to design their new transportation system." Dongsu sighed. "What happened to their own engineers?" "They say human designs are always better," Min Kyung replied. "They've stopped trying to solve problems themselves. They just wait for us to fix everything." This was happening all across the galaxy. The alien species were losing their drive to innovate and explore. They had become like children, always running to their human parents whenever something went wrong. "It's not healthy," Dongsu said. "They're becoming weak. If something happens to humanity, they won't be able to take care of themselves." Meanwhile, Dr. Yoonji was working desperately to understand the reality fractures. Her latest discovery was the most frightening yet. The ghost zones weren't just random breaks in space and time. They were following a pattern. Computer, overlay. "The ghost zone map with the original Kelthara territory chart," she ordered. The two maps appeared on her screen, and Yoonji's worst fears were confirmed. The ghost zones were appearing exactly where the biggest Kelthara worlds and structures had been. Reality was trying to remember what had been erased, but it couldn't figure out what was supposed to be there. "Oh no," she whispered. "It's not random at all. The universe is trying to heal itself by bringing back the Kelthara." She quickly called President Sang-hoon with the news. "Sir, we have a major problem. The reality fractures aren't random damage. They're the universe trying to restore the Kelthara to the timeline." "Is that possible?" Sang-hoon asked. "I don't know," Yoonji replied. "But if it happens, the Kelthara will return exactly as they were before we erased them. They'll be angry, they'll have all their technology, and they'll remember that we erased them from existence." Sang-hoon felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on him. The alien species trusted humanity to protect them, but humanity was facing problems they couldn't solve. Some humans wanted to abuse their power, others were trying to fix the universe they had broken, and all of them were struggling with the responsibility of being treated like gods. "Call an emergency meeting," Sang-hoon told his advisor. "Get Dr. Yoonji, intelligence operative Hyun-woo, and our top military leaders. We need to decide what to do before it's too late." As he prepared for the meeting, Sang-hoon looked out at the stars and wondered if humanity had won too completely. They had saved the galaxy from the Kelthara, but in doing so, they had become something they never wanted to be. They had become the species that decided who got to exist and who didn't. The burden of being gods was heavier than anyone had imagined. Dr. Bora watched in horror as another star system disappeared into the growing reality fracture. The massive ghost zone had consumed everything within 3 light years, leaving behind a space where the universe couldn't decide what was supposed to exist. "How many systems have we lost now?" asked temporal specialist Chang Ho, who stood beside her on the observation deck of the research station. 47, Bo-Ra replied. "And the fractures are spreading faster than we can evacuate people. At this rate, the entire galaxy will be consumed within 6 months." Chang Ho pulled up holographic displays showing the fracture patterns across space. Look at this. The breaks are forming a shape. It's like the universe is trying to rebuild something massive. Bora studied the pattern and felt her heart sink. It's the Kelthara Empire. The universe is trying to restore their entire civilization to the timeline. On Earth, President Sang-hoon sat in an emergency meeting with humanity's best minds. Around the table were Dr. Yoonji, Admiral Jae-won, intelligence operative Hyun-woo, and dozens of other leaders. The news they shared was all bad. The editors have grown stronger, Hyun-woo reported. Admiral Kyung-min now has over 50,000 followers. They're planning to use the erasure technology on at least 12 species they consider problematic. The reality fractures are consuming star systems daily, Dr. Yoonji added. If we don't act soon, the universe itself will collapse. Admiral Jae-won spoke next. Our military forces are ready, but we're not sure what we're fighting. How do you stop the universe from trying to heal itself? Sang-hoon looked around the table at the worried faces. Dr. Bora, you called this meeting because you think you have a solution. What is it? Dr. Bora stood and activated a holographic display. The problem is that we erased the Kelthara too completely. The universe has a wound where they used to be, and it's trying to heal by bringing them back. But it can't remember exactly what they were, so reality is breaking apart. So what do we do? Sang-hoon asked. We have to let the Kelthara exist. Again, Bora said quietly. The room exploded with angry voices. Absolutely not, Admiral Jae-won said. They erased 847 species. They tried to erase us too. But we don't bring them back as conquerors, Bora continued. We restore them to the timeline as a defeated enemy. They exist, but as prisoners. The universe heals, but they can never hurt anyone again. Chang Ho supported her explanation. Think of it like surgery. Right now, the universe has an infected wound. We need to clean it properly instead of just cutting out the infection and leaving a hole. Dr. Yoonji was studying the proposal on her tablet. It could work. If we restore the Kelthara but ensure they're already defeated in the timeline, the universe will accept that as the correct history. But that means the restored species will remember being erased, Hyun-woo pointed out. They'll know they were dead. They'll remember the horror of non-existence. Sang-hoon was quiet for a long moment. And they'll know we had the power to erase them too. They'll stop seeing us as perfect saviors. Maybe that's a good thing, said Dr. Yoonji. Right now they depend on us for everything because they think we're gods. If they remember their own trauma and survival, they might become stronger. The debate continued for hours. Some argued that letting the galaxy remember its near destruction was cruel. Others said that trauma and memory were necessary for building a mature civilization. Admiral Jae-won worried about what would happen to human authority if the aliens stopped worshipping them. Finally, Sang-hoon made a decision. We'll prepare the restoration protocol, but the final choice won't be mine. This decision affects the entire galaxy. Someone else should make it. 3 days later, historian Mira stood in the control room of the Temporal Research Station. She was not a leader, or a scientist, or a military officer. She was just a person who studied the past and tried to understand how it shaped the present. Why me? She asked President Sang-hoon over the communication system. Because you're not in charge of anything, Sang-hoon replied. You don't have political reasons to choose one way or another. You just want to understand the truth. Mira looked at the activation key in her hands. It was a simple device, no bigger than her thumb. One button would activate the restoration protocol. The Kelthara would return to existence as defeated prisoners. The reality fractures would heal, but the galaxy would remember its trauma. What about the editors? Mira asked. What about Admiral Kyung Min and his followers? We've arrested the leaders, Admiral Jae-won reported. The rest are being watched carefully. If we go through with this, it should end their movement. Hard to argue for erasing species when everyone remembers what erasure feels like. Mira walked to the observation window and looked out at space. In the distance, she could see the edge of a ghost zone, where reality flickered between existence and non-existence. Ships were evacuating the last inhabited worlds before the fracture consumed them too. Dr. Bora, Mira said, if I activate this, what exactly will happen? The Kelthara will return to the timeline, Bora explained, but they'll return as they were at the moment of their defeat. Imprisoned, powerless, but alive. The 847 species they erased will remember being erased and then restored. They'll know they died and came back. Will they hate us for having that power? Mira asked. Some might, Bora admitted, but they'll also be grateful that we chose to save them instead of leaving them erased. Mira thought about the choice before her. She could leave things as they were and watch the universe tear itself apart. Or she could restore the galaxy's memory and trauma, making everyone stronger, but also more afraid. The alien species trust us now because they think we're perfect, Mira said. If they remember being erased, they'll know we have the power to erase them too. They'll be afraid of us. Yes, Sang-hoon said, but they'll also respect us. Right now they see us as gods. After this, they'll see us as people who chose to do the right thing even when it was hard. Mira closed her eyes and thought about all the species across the galaxy. She thought about the children growing up on worlds that had been restored, the artists creating beauty from cultures that had been saved, the scientists making discoveries that advanced everyone's knowledge. She thought about the reality fractures consuming star systems. She thought about the editors who wanted to use erasure power on more species. She thought about the universe trying to heal itself by bringing back humanity's greatest enemy. I want the galaxy to remember, Mira said finally. I want them to know how close they came to never existing. I want them to understand the value of life because they remember death. She pressed the button. Across the galaxy, reality shifted. The Kelthara flickered back into existence in prison facilities that had always been there but never been built. 847 species suddenly remembered being erased from reality and then restored by humanity. They remembered the horror of non-existence and the joy of being saved. The ghost zones collapsed as the universe finally understood what was supposed to exist where. The reality fractures healed themselves as space and time remembered their proper shape. On thousands of worlds, people looked up at the stars with new understanding. They had been dead and been brought back to life. They had never existed and then existed again. And through it all, one species had chosen to save them instead of leaving them erased. 20 years later, old Commander Tae-ho stood in a classroom filled with young cadets from dozens of different species. He was teaching them about the importance of protecting life rather than perfecting it through elimination. Remember, he told them, true strength isn't the power to erase your enemies. It's the wisdom to know when not to use that power. The Kelthara had the power to erase. We had the power to erase. The difference is that we chose to save instead of destroy. A young Corvan cadet raised her hand. Sir, why didn't humanity just keep the erasure power secret? Why let us remember what happened? Tae-ho smiled. Because a galaxy that remembers its trauma is stronger than a galaxy that lives in ignorance. You value your existence more because you remember almost losing it. You work harder to protect each other because you know how easily it can all disappear. The lesson ended, and the cadets filed out to their ships. They would explore the galaxy, protect the weak, and remember the price of existence. They would never forget that life was precious because they remembered what it was like to never have lived at all. The galaxy was no longer perfect. It carried scars and memories of terrible things, but it was strong, mature, and wise. And humanity had learned that the greatest victory wasn't erasing your enemies, it was choosing not to even when you could.